crazy.
But I saw that monster too. All I want is for someone to believe me.
Contaminated.
Face. Horrible. Look like it would scare you to death.
All right, let's get to work.
So.
I mean, sometimes organics are overrated. I mean, you know, sometimes you just want everything synthetic.
Just like my DMT. No, I'm joking. And we are here, everyone. Welcome in to Season 1, Episode 2 of Beyond the Shadows. I am Victus.
Welcome. And I'm Aeon.
Just like last week, bring one of my favorite paranormal cases. So last week was UFOs, of course, and this week we are going to discuss the Enfeild poltergeist case. This is, oh my gosh, this one's been popularized big time. In a nutshell, I'll break it down to you. This is the core of Insidious 2, the second Insidious movie, made popular by Hollywood. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, so it's the two characters are two of the paranormal investigators from
Yes.
the actual case.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So I mean, it's been Hollywoodized, but there is quite a bit of reality behind what they were talking about in the movie. We'll touch on that more later, unless you just want to breach the subject now.
I mean, you may as well cover some of that to start, and then I can jump in because, of course, again, I went and did my, every person search to try to find stuff, and I'm starting to think that Wikipedia doesn't believe anything happens anywhere.
Oh my
I'm just
gosh.
saying, it is incredibly
Yeah.
cynical, and I thought, I'm skeptical, but it is very cynical.
Wikipedia.
It ripped this one apart a little bit.
Yeah.
But why don't you start and tell me about it like I don't know nothing about it? 'Cause I mostly don't know anything about it.
Well, I'm going to say Wikipedia isn't the greatest for...
No, it's not at all. That's why I grabbed from it. It's terrible. That's why I'm pulling it, because that's the first thing. Because every search that I do on these, the first like Google search thing is always Wikipedia. So I know that's the first thing people are going to do. They're going to be like, oh, well, let me go look, and the first thing that's going to come up is going to be Wikipedia, which is terrible. Which is why I print them off so that we can argue with Wikipedia about it.
Right. Oh, before we get started, I did have something paranormal happen to me this week.
Really?
You ready for this? This is crazy.
Sure.
This is absolutely wild. Absolutely crazy.
Okay, tell me about it.
They treated me good at work this week.
You better get out. Next, it's going to be a hole to the other side.
Absolutely paranormal. I was scared to death. I knew something just spooky was going on. I didn't. My hands are still shaking.
You watch next, a hole's going to open up in the middle of produce like that. What was that movie where they had to like tie a rope around the dude for him to jump into the hole to pull the kid back who was stuck behind the veil in the house?
That I think that was.
Was that Poltergeist?
Yeah, that was Poltergeist. That's
okay.
Ironically, that also is about the Enfeild poltergeist.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that nothing like a giant portal with having to pull a kid out with a rope happened.
Yeah, this story has been Hollywoodized to death, and everything you think you know about it is probably wrong. So what happened is they took a really interesting story of something that really happened, and I mean, you've seen the movies. So Poltergeist was I'm pretty sure it was the first one. It might have been the second one. I'm pretty sure it was the first one.
First big popular one.
Yeah. And then Conjuring 2, because they were following the story of Ed and Lorraine Warren, which in reality they were prominent paranormal investigators. They were a part of this story.
Demonologist.
Yes.
Demonologist.
Yes, that's what they call themselves.
Demonologist. Yeah.
Excuse me, with a capital D. They are part of this story, but they're not as big of a part as my previous exposure to this, because I read the original book from the 70s, 80s. I think it was the 80s. And that was the extent of my knowledge until doing research on this topic. And yeah, I have a pretty heavily formed opinion on this matter, but we'll dive right into it.
So there's also a new Apple TV
Yeah, I didn't know that.
miniseries. Yeah, it's they're filming the original they're filming a documentary sort of in a reenacted set of the allegedly haunted house on 284 Green Street, utilizing actors lip syncing the original tape recordings, archival video footage, and modern day interviews with living witnesses of the event.
Interesting.
I
knew they were
So it
making...
sounds like they're trying to faithfully make it interesting.
Right, yeah, instead of...
Without just showing the old interviews.
Yeah, right.
Instead of just sensationalizing it.
Okay, well, we'll start at the beginning for the sake of this investigation, because I am a professional and paranormal investigator. I went to Paranormal Investigations College, and my degree, it's on the wall back there somewhere.
For real?
What a perfectly timed zoom out. To show that there's no picture, no fucking degree on the wall behind me. I did not plan that. It does that on its own. Motherfucker. Anyway.
It was like, no, it isn't.
I promise. I'm not doing that. It does it on its own. Where's the... Yeah, see? Magic. Yeah, that was golden. Clip that shit. All right. The Enfeild poltergeist remains one of the most perplexing and debated cases of alleged paranormal activity in modern history. It unfolded over several months between 1977 and 1978, with numerous reported incidents of paranormal activity occurring in the Hodgson family, in their home in Enfield, London. So let me set the scene for you.
Okay.
I feel like this is kind of important. This didn't come up in my research, but I remember reading it in the book that came out, the original book that came out. So this type of housing that they were in, it was like a fixed income housing in England.
The council housing?
Yeah. So what it is, it's like, have you seen pictures of like London housing where it's like, it looks like rows and rows of houses, but they're all connected?
Yeah, with the tiny, like, bricked in front and tiny bricked in back.
Yeah. So that's what these housings are. It's like a fixed income housing. The mother of the family was, I think, like, her husband, he either died or he ran off. There's very little information about her husband. He took off or whatever, and she was working to support her and her 3 kids. So they're stuck in this fixed income housing. So if you go to one wall on either side, if you knock on that wall, you're knocking on the neighbor's wall.
Right.
And same thing.
Right, an old post-World War II construction.
Exactly, yeah. There's even, I think if I remember...
No firewalls.
Right. If I remember correctly, even in Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, they were living in this type of housing at one time. Because I remember one of the characters going to the attic and sneaking over to the neighbor's house.
Yeah. Because
the attics were connected.
Mm-hmm.
Which they were in this type of housing. Same thing.
Okay.
So, the story is centered around the Hodgson family, primarily Peggy Hodgson and her children Margaret, Janet, Johnny, and Billy. So, this stuff starts subtly at first. Very cookie cutter for what you think poltergeist activity is going to be.
Okay, like what?
The official reports are furniture moving on their own. And there
like
are,
big furniture?
They don't exactly say. I got the impression from most of my research that it's like a table or a chair.
Okay.
Generally like light pieces of furniture, like a kitchen table or a kitchen chair. Something
So I seem to remember
simple.
watching one of the documentaries about this, and that was one of the things they centered on was like, the solid wood table.
Right.
That was in the place. They were like, because a lot of people were saying, oh, it was the family or it was kids or it was a trick. And they went to like one of the like camera guys who's sort of a big dude. They're like, hey man, can you just come over here and like just pick this table up?
Yeah.
Like just pick the table up. And he couldn't pick it up off the floor. And, they were like, so, I mean, we're not saying you couldn't do something complex to like raise the table and make it move around and stuff, but
right.
like, I mean, we don't, this lady is like low income, the kids are low income family. Like, it kind of takes some real like, in-person movie magic stuff, to fake some of this stuff.
Right. Well, I get the impression that like the furniture is probably cheap.
Okay.
And generally with cheap furniture, nothing's going to sit level.
Right.
So I feel like initially maybe it was just like, oh, this chair is wobbling on its own.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
right.
I feel like a poltergeist could move something easily like that. That's off balance a little bit. It's easy just to make something wobble.
Right.
I feel like that's where the stuff started. It was small things like that. And
like no one's sitting at the table, but it's doing its off angle.
Yeah.
Off angle tilt. Yeah.
So that was how it started. And immediately the two boys were freaked out. And they begged their mother to be taken out of the house. So the mother sent the two boys to go stay with like an aunt or an uncle, something like that.
Okay.
Which was in the same neighborhood.
Set of row houses?
Yeah, I think they were like 2 houses down or 3 houses down. They were very close proximity. Because
okay, she didn't like send them out of town.
No, not like I'm going to send you to live in the countryside in a boys' home since you don't want to stay with us in the ghost. But because there is a number of instances in the research where they're freaked out and they go outside and they're like, we're not going to stay in here the rest of the night, and they just go 2 houses down to their relative.
Okay.
So
like when no one else is there, when it's just the family there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a number of occasions where they just get up and fucking leave because they don't want to be in the house when this shit starts happening. But just like in a movie, everything starts out little, very subtle, small things happening, little pieces of furniture going, and noises they can't explain. So
noises like
knocking.
Oh, okay.
Traditional poltergeist things, knocking in places like inside the wall.
Oh, okay.
Which,
okay. I mean, so it's a knocking, but even somebody on the other side is like, I'm looking at the wall and there's nothing here.
Yes. So it starts in August of 1977. Peggy Hodgson calls the local police to come to her rented home because she witnessed furniture moving. And once the police came to her home, oh my God, I lost my space. This text is so small. Once the police arrived, saw nothing at first and decided to ask Peggy's children, Janet, aged 11, and Margaret, aged 13, if they had seen anything. They hadn't seen anything moving. However, Janet told the police officer that she had heard knocking inside the wall. And so,
Janet, one of the daughters.
Janet was one of the daughters. So Janet takes the police officer upstairs to their bedroom and says, this is where I was hearing it. And right on cue, they hear knocking inside the wall.
Okay.
So police poke around for a little bit. They're trying to figure out what's going on. They can't figure things out. Both the children and Peggy told the police that there had also been knocking sounds inside the wall in the kitchen area. And the children told the police on a second time when they were called out that they were hearing disembodied voices.
Okay.
No, Margaret never heard. Margaret's the mother. Or no, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Peggy's the mother. Peggy never heard the disembodied voices. It was only the children. You're going to notice a trend here. And if you've watched enough horror movies, you know that the children are the ones experiencing most of this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why so many people think that this is a hoax because they think it's little girls being little girls.
Yeah, that was sort of the case with the Amityville
Right.
house. It started with the kids seeing like like the day they moved in, like the son saw like a shitload of flies
Yeah.
up in the upstairs bedroom, and he killed a bunch of them, and then went to get his mom thinking she'd be like really happy to see that he had like killed a bunch of them, and she's like, where are they? He's like, well, they were right here, like they were on the newspaper and like on the floor, like I killed like a whole bunch of them, but when mom comes up, like there's nothing.
Right.
There's nothing in the room. So yeah, it does usually seem to be the kids, because kids are little shits, and they always want to start. I'm kidding.
Get your shit.
Craving attention. No, I mean, it does seem to always be the kids. Either they're more sensitive, or it's or they're easier for ghosts or poltergeist or entities to mess with or connect with, or whatever they're trying to do.
I think the school of thought is that younger kids, teenage kids, are more psychically susceptible to paranormal manipulation, I suppose is the best way to put that.
Yeah.
So that's why we hear so many cases of kids being the ones. I mean, it goes all the way back to like Salem witch trials. It was always the kids in the house that were being affected by the curses from the witch down the street. As a matter of fact, that's how Salem witch trials started. A group of 3 girls said that they were being cursed.
started hearing stuff. Yeah, and then so they accused them all of being in league with the devil because they heard things.
Right. Yeah. So,
moral of the story, kids: don't tell your parents you're hearing weird stuff. Just suffer with the ghosts.
Yeah, suffer. Story of my life. So the police get called out a number of times. I think on record it was 5. And each time the police came out, everything was escalating. So the first time it was like, the police is like, maybe I saw that chair wobble, or maybe I saw that table move.
Mm-hmm.
Second time was, I heard the noises. Third time is when the police saw the furniture moving for the first time.
Oh, the police saw it themselves.
Yes.
In the police report, the police say they saw the furniture moving.
Yes. So the police were actually trying to recreate the movement, just like the reports the investigators were. Like, how do I make this chair wobble, make sound?
Right.
Or how do I make this table move the way I saw it move? And they were unable to recreate it.
Because weren't they saying like the table was like, I mean, I don't want to say like jumping foot to foot, but it was sort of like hopping, sort of one of these sort of motions, kind of like a wave, like around the edges.
Those were some of the reports. There's so many reports, and very few of them are actually like direct quotes from the children or direct quotes from police or
officers.
Direct quotes. Yeah.
Right.
Finding direct quotes in this is very difficult until the investigators come in.
Right, and they're actually doing it systematically.
Right. And the last time the police were called in, the police had things being thrown at them.
Oh,
So small rocks.
Like from a counter?
They were coming from seemingly empty parts of the house.
Oh.
So like they would be standing in the kitchen and a Lego would fly in and hit the policeman in the side of the head.
Oh yeah, like come in from the other doorway kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like from where someone couldn't have thrown it, like it had to have come from around the corner kind of thing.
Right. So
Yeah, I remember that.
Except for the first time the police were called out. Every other time after that, the children were in bed. They were upstairs in bed. So the mother's downstairs with the police. Children are in bed, and things are being thrown from the other room.
Okay.
There's a small list of things that were being thrown. Small rocks coming from nowhere. Legos and coins were being thrown at the policemen while they were in the house after the mother called.
Mm-hmm.
And the police stopped coming after one of the officers was hit in the face with a small rock.
Oh.
They said, you've got some stuff going on. We can't figure out what's going on. You'll need a fucking priest or something.
So in one of the documentaries that I saw, they were trying to basically recreate all of these, not quite firsthand accounts, but accounts by people, and they were like, trying to, throw small toys from some vantage point, because in the end they kind of wrote a lot of it off to being the kids, or tried to write a lot of it off as the kids playing a hoax, and so they went back and tried to recreate some of these scenarios, right? And throwing like Legos and coins and shit from spots where they could bounce it off a wall,
right?
And hit the officer, and like, their take on it was like, okay, look, if you're doing this, one, there'd be dents all over the walls from coins and Legos being hit hard enough off the wall to actually hit somebody. Also, it took them forever, even with the dude just standing there, like their test guy, right, for the setup, to actually land one.
Yeah.
Like actually find the sweet spot,
right,
and bounce it off of something and hit the dude. Let alone like square in the face or whatever. And from the account that you're reading, it sounds like they got hit with multiple objects.
Yes.
Which would be really difficult.
Yeah.
Unless you were in a spot where someone could see you.
Yeah. It would take a very advantageous child to be able to hide from a police officer while she's throwing rocks at his face.
Right, because they're going to look the direction that the thing just came from.
Exactly. Trained professionals.
Right.
If I say professionals, they were policemen in the 70s. How professional were they?
Right. Well, they at least knew to look in the direction of the thing that was being thrown at them to try to find what it was.
So,
Stone Cold Pros.
No pun intended. Stone-faced pros. So after this last time, the police were like, we're not coming out anymore. Something's going on and we don't know what it is. There's nothing we can do because we can't identify what the problem is. So the family then contacts the Society for Psychical Research. We're going to call that SPR from this point forward because I am not going to keep saying that shit.
Yeah, the psychical part
yes.
can get to be a tongue twister.
So the SPR is a research, I say company. It's a group of people, like-minded people, that work with Ed and Lorraine Warren. So these people, they're coming from a local college, and what they're doing is they're going out and they're going to send one guy out, poke around a little bit, and if it seems legitimate, then they're going to send out a group of people with equipment. So that's what they did. SPR sends out a single investigator, and once he's in the home, he hears the knocks, he sees these pieces of furniture wobbling, and the investigator... Wait, I wrote a funny sentence here. What the hell? The investigator called out to the room, asking questions, trying to prompt a response to cause a small rock to be thrown. Okay, yeah, so the investigator started trying to talk to whatever entity this was.
Right.
That was in the other room, and the immediate response was having rocks thrown at him from the other room.
Yeah, in the movies they portray it like almost like a buckshot of random objects, and the dude goes running.
Yeah.
In the movies.
Right. The book that I read, I'm going to call it the original book because it was the first book published about this.
Okay.
The original book says that aside from rocks and coins and stuff being thrown, they were dropping from the ceiling.
Where they were not previously.
Right. So they'd be like sitting at the table in the kitchen, and a coin would just fall from the ceiling, or a rock would fall from the ceiling.
Oh, and so this is where the imagery of the portal thing comes in.
Yes.
Is because they're dropping from a seemingly blank ceiling that obviously didn't have a shit ton of Legos stuck
right
in it.
I mean, if one thing drops, you're gonna look up, and
right?
If there's a bunch of Legos taped to the ceiling, you're gonna know. Obviously.
Right.
Because I have a house that was built right around the same time those housing was built, and I can tell you if something is stuck to my ceiling. I can tell because it's all very plain and very normal. straight planks of wood, you would notice. Like, I notice imperfections in the ceiling all the time, and it drives me crazy.
In that documentary that I watched, that was, you know, less drama, more docu.
Right.
They were trying to recreate that effect, right? Like Legos, like seemingly dropping from the ceiling, and they tried, you know, in the account, you know, they talk about it dropping straight down and landing, you know, on the table.
Right.
Right. Just like landing like right in front of them and coming to rest like right there. So they were like, well, you know, maybe somebody like lobbed it high from behind the counter, you know, or what, you know, because they're trying to make it, they're trying to, basically they're trying to prove the stance that it was the kids, right? They're trying to find a way to prove it. And so, you know, obviously when they, you know, hit the wooden table, they hit it and skitter across it, like always in the same direction. Right. Because it's being thrown from one direction. And all these investigators are always looking up, right? Because it seems like it just drops.
Yeah. And
they managed to come up with a bunch of very complicated ways that you could get it to do this, but kind of like, I mean, I hate to say Occam's razor says the simplest answer is a ghost. That sounds crazy.
Right.
Say that, but that was what they were saying. They were like, you know, Occam's razor, these are kids, and, you know, clever as they might be, you know, the idea that they did all these things we had to do to finally get one to like lob from behind them and drop like right in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Either that's all they're doing when nobody's there is practicing, because that's what we did to make it happen.
Right.
Or, you know, or they did like treatments on the Legos, so basically when they hit the table, they're sort of like have a lot of friction.
Yeah.
And so they don't bounce, or they weighted one so it would hit. They weighted one with lead inside so it would hit and sort of not skid. But they're like, I mean, come on, like that seems like a lot.
What I'm getting
for some kids to do
from the original book is, like you were saying, these things were dropping. Like, you drop a coin, it's going to do the thing.
Right.
It was dropping, it's going toop and stopping.
Right.
No bounce.
Yeah, same with the Legos. They would just drop and land right in front of them, almost like a kid setting down a block.
Like there was some finesse to it, yeah.
Right.
Which...
Yeah, I hate to say Occam's razor makes it simpler to have somebody not throwing it and a spirit doing it, but I'm just saying, I mean, it made more sense that it came from above is really what they're getting at, directly from above, than that somebody threw it. And they cited the thing about the coin landing flat too. They're like, we can't make it do that. They're like, we can't flick a coin and make it land, you know, flat side directly on, and
every
you know
time.
not.
Yeah.
Right, every time, and not flick around and bounce and do all kinds of stuff. They're like, we don't know how you do that, other than making it sticky or making the table sticky, or like they had all these things that they were like, somebody would have noticed. They'd be like, oh, why is this whole table fucking sticky?
Yeah.
You know, because somebody was like, oh yeah, the kids probably had syrup on the table. And I'm like, the lady's not like just a slob and just leaving like a syrup covered table out there and being like, why don't the coins bounce?
I can tell you why the underside of the table is sticky.
That's where we wipe our bread.
Yeah. Gum. That's why.
Gum.
Mine out of the gutter.
Okay, so go on.
Okay.
I just wanted to highlight
that
because
this is good.
Because people might be like, oh well, stuff dropping onto the table, you know, there might be somebody behind the counter, and that was the thing that they did. You know, you'd have to go look at pictures to see the setup of the inside of the house, but there's not a lot in the house, and there's not a lot of places somebody could be, even a small human like a child.
Yeah.
And make that happen. They did a whole lot to try to make that happen. They finally made a device, like a little erector set launcher device.
Yeah.
That when they launched it, they got the coin tilt just so that it would land flat, but it still would flat and skitter or flat and bounce.
Right.
So
I didn't know that.
Anyway.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I'll have to find it so we can put it in the credits. I'll have to find out which documentary that was.
Yeah, for sure. So, like we said, the investigator starts trying to speak to whatever this is to get a reaction. Because this guy's from SPR, and he's testing the waters to see if he wants to bring the whole team in. This dude gets clapped in the eyeball with a fucking rock. And he runs out.
And he does run out. Okay,
runs,
okay. Because that's how the dramatization is. He's like,
yeah.
And he runs.
Oh, you peeked there. No.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Too loud?
I think it's... Yeah. Well, you peeked and you cut out. That might have been what happened last time.
Oh, probably.
It's fine. Next time you decide to get loud, just lean back. I love the zoom.
My loud face. All right. So, anyway.
So he runs out. There are reports that after this happens, the mother brings in a priest to try to bless the place, and he gets run out the same way. But nothing.
That's a natural go-to.
Yeah. There's
Get
nothing...
the Protestant priest to come and...
Yeah, this is the 70s in England, so there was probably 6 churches within arm's reach. Yeah, sling that holy water.
Sling the holy water.
Super soaker full of holy water.
Yeah.
And you're just spraying the walls. Get the fuck out.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. So they thought the SPR was done with him because dude got fucking racked in the eyeball with a rock.
Right.
However, he goes back and he tells them, I think we've got a legitimate case here. So
we got a hot zone.
Yeah, we've got some activity. They show up in force. A full team of like 6 or 7 people.
Wow.
Move in with this family.
Oh, nice!
I'm
it's
not
already
joking.
a small house with 4 children and a single mother in it. Now it's a host of 11 people.
Right. So investigators sleeping on the floor, sleeping on the couch. I think one of the investigators sleeps on the floor in the kitchen. They move.
Okay.
They move 2 of the two girls, into a bedroom together.
Okay. Try to make a hotbed of paranormal activity.
Right. So they notice that the activity is kind of centered around the children. So like, we're gonna put the kids together and see what happens. And initially, it's just recording and recording activity, seeing what's going on. And after a couple of days of the activity escalating, more pounding on the, it went from knocking in the walls to pounding. Furniture moving much more violently.
Wasn't it like moving in front of people when they were walking and tripping them? Wasn't there some of
Yes.
that? Like a footstool kind of thing? Like you'd go walking across, you'd look and it'd not be there. Something would catch your attention and you'd trip over it because now it was in your way.
Yeah. That was one of the reports. Another report, and this is where Hollywood got this one
drawers
from.
coming out and catching people in the hips.
All cabinets opening. That's another. So this is the first recorded case of poltergeist where this type of activity happened, and this is where Hollywood got a lot of it from.
Okay, for future movies.
Coming into the room and all the furniture be stacked.
Right. Yeah,
Coming
I
into
remember
the kitchen,
seeing that.
all the drawers, all the cabinets are open. I think there was even one instance where come in and all of the dishes were stacked neatly in a tower in the middle of the kitchen table. There's
yeah, like they'd leave and come home to this sort of thing.
Yes, or they would all go to sleep and wake up, and the furniture that wasn't occupied would be piled in the corner.
Right. Yep. I remember reading that.
So this is where Hollywood got the majority of their ideas from, because this stuff happened, or it was experienced.
Right.
So once the escalation was evident, they brought in equipment. So these people set up cameras so this is high tech for the 70s. They brought in cameras with motion sensors to automatically take pictures when it detected movement.
To get everybody out of the room and then set the camera up.
Right. And I think they had like 6, 7 cameras throughout this house. It's a small house. 6 or 7 cameras all over this house. And they even put one in the bedroom where the girls were staying. Let's see, what are we going to pick up? So, Maurice Gross, paranormal investigator with SPR, visits the Hodgson home after hearing about the disturbances, begins documenting the phenomena, including capturing recordings of unexplained knockings and voices. So it was about this time that... Oh, which one of the girls was it? I keep forgetting this girl's name. Margaret? Which one was the older one? Margaret. Margaret, the 13-year-old. This is where they start to believe that she was becoming possessed by whatever was there. Because
this is where the man voice comes in.
Yes. Okay, so this girl starts talking in a different voice. And I actually have a recording of it here.
Oh, yes. Let's hear that.
Let me pull this up.
Let me hear you say my name. Come on, let me hear you say my name. That's not my name. Come on, my name's Morris. Let me hear you say it. Morris. Say Dr. Belloc. Come on, let me hear you say that. Come on, let's hear you say Dr. Belloc. Could you close that door down? Say Dr. Belloc. What is it? Just hold that one on. Now, if you squeak the bed, I can't hear you talking. Now, say Dr. Belloc. Come on. Come on, say it for me, Dr. Belloc. Dr. Belloc. Right, that's good. Come on. Shut up, that door. I'm 72 years old. I come from Jewel Park graveyard. And I have right near the church where Rena lives. And all my friends come from there as well. And we all make a game and go to the pub. And then we pick your house. Because I used to live here. And I will tell you some more. And if you don't tell anyone else, just take Mr. Hook and Mr. Playback.
Okay, I'm gonna pause there for just a second. So, this is the point of the investigation where things start to kind of piece together, where they think they understand who is in the house.
Okay.
So, you notice they keep saying, "What's my name?" And he says, "Bill." It's like, well, that's not my name. Say my name. And he keeps saying, "Bill."
Dr. Belloc, yeah.
So the story goes, the person that lived there before the Hodgins lived there was an elderly man named Bill.
Okay, you also said the investigator's name is Bill.
Yes.
Okay.
But he wanted to use his professional name, Dr.
Belloc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what he was trying to get him to say. But this is the point where they realize that they're talking to the spirit of Bill,
who died there.
The previous tenant, yes. So,
and the dog barking was the child too, right?
Yes. This was all
the dog
child.
Barks for the child. That was very convincing dog bark, by the way.
It was.
Like, I would be creeped out if a small girl like barked at me, and that sounded like a convincing like dog next door barking at me when I go outside or something. Like, yeah, that would creep me out.
So, like, you can look at Conjuring 2. They keep seeing the old man and sitting in the chair in the living room.
Right.
That was their way of connecting the dots in the movie. That the old man, supposedly the old man died in the chair in the living room.
I seem to remember some of the furniture was left.
Yes, the chair.
When they moved in. Yeah, the chair and like there was something else. There was more, like there was stuff left and they just moved in and it hadn't been really cleaned out.
Yeah.
And they had to do a bunch of cleaning and they were broke, like you said.
Right. And
so they kept, quite a bit of the furniture. And apparently it's not unusual.
No, not at the time.
In that time for furniture to be left and then the next tenants just use the furniture again.
Right. Because it was the 70s.
Because it's low-end housing. Yeah, it's the 70s, it's low-end housing, and it just wasn't unusual for the furniture to go with the place. Because people rotated in and out of these places pretty frequently.
So I'm going to let this run a little more. I'm going to try to find the transcript of what she's saying while this is going. But this is her channeling Bill, and he's talking to the investigators, telling about himself.
I want you to tell me
whether you remember what happened to you when you died. Just before you died and just after you died.
Days before I died, I went blind. Then I had an hemorrhage and I fell asleep and I died in a chair in the corner downstairs.
Bill, if you're there, would you answer me the following question? What have you done with Denise's 30p?
Okay, so this is another odd thing that happened. Is they were collecting the coins that were being thrown, and they were in a pile in the kitchen, and the pile of coins came up missing.
Okay, yeah, he said 30p, so like 30 pence.
Yes, that's what they're talking about here.
Okay.
Headed down to the radio, downstairs.
Sorry, Bill, can you say that again, please?
Headed down to the radio, downstairs.
Righto, Bill, I'll go and look. Thanks ever so much. Why can't Jack...
So, he told the investigators where the money was downstairs. I couldn't find anything that said whether or not they actually located it downstairs.
Something about down at the radio.
Yeah, behind
downstairs.
the radio downstairs.
Behind the radio downstairs. I want to say that they, at least in the documentary that I saw, I don't remember if they found it either, but I remember they went down there and they even opened up the back of the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like you said, I don't know where to look to find it, but I feel like,
I want to say,
in quotes, I feel like they found it in the back of the radio, but
for something that's so heavily documented, there's a lot of holes in the recording of.
There are, especially for a whole team that this is what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're volunteers, but this is what they do, and they came out, and there is a lot of missing information. It may have been on the movie that they find money in the back of the radio, but there was definitely a lot of focus on that radio.
Yeah, I think it was the movie.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and roll back. I just decided to turn closed captions on.
Because I think in reality they never found the actual.
I think so too. Yeah.
Coins.
We'll roll back just a little bit and see if the captions will pick up what he says.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like we're getting good captions.
Oh yeah. That's better than what I could hear.
Days before I died, I went blind.
You went
Then
blind?
I had an hemorrhage.
You had a
And I
hemorrhage?
fell asleep.
Fell
And I died in a chair.
And he died in a
In
chair.
the
In the corner downstairs.
In the corner
In the corner
downstairs.
downstairs.
Yeah.
Bill, if you're there, would you answer me the following question? What have you done with Denise's 30p?
Headed down to the radio, downstairs.
Sorry, Bill, can you say that again, please?
Headed down to the radio, downstairs.
Righto, Bill, I'll go and look. Thanks ever so much.
It doesn't really clarify. The subtitles aren't perfect. Something about the radio downstairs. I'm assuming he says behind the radio downstairs.
Mm-hmm. That's what it sounds like.
But we've got like a minute and a half left in this. Let's go ahead and hear the rest of these recordings.
Okay.
Why can't Janet sue you?
I'm invisible.
You're invisible? Why are you invisible?
So I'm a G-H-O-S-T.
I couldn't. understand exactly what he's saying. He started sound like he was spelling something out.
Yeah.
We'll run that back one more time.
H-O-S-T.
Oh, he spells out ghost. That's what it was. He says,
Okay.
I'm
Gotcha.
G-H-O-S-T.
Okay. Yeah.
G-H-O-S-T.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He spells out
Yeah.
ghost.
That's what he said. Yeah.
Did any friends go with you?
Yes, all of them. All the dogs, 68 dogs.
And what do you got 68 dogs for?
So that they can protect me from you killing me. They can bite your head off.
How can we...
So he says he has 68 dogs with him, and they
To
protect
keep
him.
them from killing him,
Yeah.
and they'll bite your head off.
How crazy is
Yeah, I
this?
caught that part.
Keep in mind, this is a 13-year-old girl making this sound. It sounds like an old British man.
Yeah, and I seem to remember that. So that they said, or they say that like the manner of speaking of Bill, the entity, is broken and changes subjects often, which is the same thing that the little girl would do when she spoke.
Right.
But I seem to remember that the guy spoke differently than, like, the accent is
Right.
different
in
the guy's voice than the little girl has. The little girl has a very different British accent. For those of you who only know British accents from watching British TV, that's all usually like high British, the Queen's English. The vast majority of people from most parts of England don't speak very much like all the generic British accents you hear on TV. There's the Cockney stuff, which is usually the lower end, and a lot of slang, all the way up to like high British, which is like, when you hear who's a great example?
Like, compare the way this guy's talking to, like, recordings of the Queen talking.
Right, or everybody in The Crown, like the
Right.
the show The Crown or something like that. Yeah, it's very different. He's it's not an education thing. It's a slang and regional thing.
Right. Yeah, it depends on where you
I mean, I guess some of it's a language education thing, but a lot of it's regional.
Right.
So even outside of London, you'll sound quite a bit different from people who are from London.
Generally, people in England can tell where you're from based on your accent.
Yeah, and the words you use. Yeah.
Right. All right, let's roll the rest of this. See what else she says.
Kill you, Bill.
You could shoot me off.
Now how can we shoot you if we can't see you, Bill?
My thank you, God.
Sorry, I didn't hear that, Bill.
My thank you, God.
By praying to God.
You get angry.
So, what you're saying is we could get rid of you by praying to God.
Yes.
Interesting.
Kind of creepy.
It is. Oh. Yeah, just more barking. All right, so 13-year-old Margaret making these sounds.
Okay.
Absolutely bizarre and wild.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people think that this is just the girl making this up.
Right.
I'll touch more on what I feel towards the end of this. But those are just the audio recordings. There's no video. This was the 70s. We do have some pictures.
Oh yeah, that's right. The camera, the motion activated cameras were just cameras.
Yeah, these were film cameras in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And the picture quality is not great, but
Yeah.
we do have some pictures here. Let me pull up some pictures. So these were motion activated pictures caught by the investigators' cameras. Just as soon as it loads. Wow, very small Well, let me see if I can zoom here a little bit. So,
So that's the girls alone at night in their
yes
bedroom.
Do the listeners a favor and describe what you're seeing here.
Okay, so what I'm seeing here is sort of a typical, tween girl's bedroom. It's pretty simple, but there's pictures on the walls of movie stars and various British actors.
That is a giant poster of Steve McQueen in a turtleneck,
Yes.
by the way.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's, old patterned 70s carpet. There's a bed with a frame and a bed with just a bottom frame, and they're basically lined up together. And you're looking at the two beds from what looks like a counter, and one girl appears to be asleep on the right of the picture, and on the left side you see another one that appears to either be leaping or just in the midst of standing or about to jump off the bed in a red nightgown.
So,
with sort of a crazed look on her face.
So the reports here are the girls were being thrown around the room.
Okay.
And this is their photographic evidence of the girls being moved. So one would glance at this and just be like, oh, that's just a girl jumping off the bed. But look at the angle of the feet, how they're kind of dragging behind.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's her. Let me change.
So for our listeners, the girl is standing in, I hate to use this, but a Christ-like pose. Arms straight out. Her feet are straight down, but her feet are kind of dragging behind her.
So yes, so you can see her heel up off the bed, looks like. It's hard to tell because she's wearing some sort of socks or there's some sort of coloration thing going on, but it does look like one leg has the foot completely off the bed with maybe the toes grazing it, and the other, the foot is like sort of dragging behind, and she's almost touching the ceiling. I mean, her head's almost hitting the ceiling.
Yeah, this is so I would guess she's about top of her head's about 7 foot off the ground.
Yeah. Kind of out of frame, so it's hard to see the rest.
What I'm seeing is think of how an older person would pick up a child underneath the arms.
Right. Yeah, that's
child's first reaction is to put their arms out.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of that, except she's screaming.
There is definitely an anguished look on her face. Let's look at some of these other ones. So this is after she is thrown.
Right, and so in this picture, it's better lighting. The thing that I thought was a table close up is actually a bed.
Yeah, I believe
the camera's over.
I believe the mother was in the room with them.
And so she looks like, so you could look at it two ways. You could look at it as this is the completion of the jump, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you could say that. Or, on the other hand, it also does look like somebody has, almost like she's sitting on a chair.
Yeah, this is a weird one.
And she's also screaming still, and there's that red balloon in the room as well.
Was that there in the last one?
So I don't, it's not.
Weird.
It's not in the room in the last one.
Okay, so this must be another night.
Another night, or, spontaneous appearance of a balloon?
So in my experience,
it's reaching a little bit.
There should be a clown crawling out from underneath the bed somewhere.
Right. I mean, the lighting looks different, so I feel like it's a different night.
And the poor mother, look at her laying in the bed with the other daughter.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Now they're both in the other.
She's got her hand on her face like, oh, this shit again.
Yeah. And the other daughter doesn't look too perplexed about it.
Because I think at this point it had been happening a lot.
Gotcha.
And there's your full color Steve McQueen photo or poster. Isn't that great?
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a weird photo.
This is where a lot of skepticism comes in because people are seeing these photos and they're like, "This is just a girl jumping."
And and I don't know if it's the angle, but it also sort of looks like So go back to the last picture.
As soon as my mouse.
Because I want to see the wooden bed again, where it is in relation to the posters. So. Okay, no, so it's in the same place. So because her legs in front of the post of the other bed and the perspective, it looks like the back of the wooden bed is lifted up off the ground, but it's covering the same amount of that poster behind it that's on the wall. Yeah, it's covering the same amount of the poster as it was before. So I don't think that's it. It's probably the perspective, but it looked like the head of the bed was lifting up, which I think people remarked on, but it's covering the same part of the poster.
Right. So let's roll over to the next one and see what it looks like. So this is the girls after they had been drug out of the bed.
Okay.
They decided to blur out all the posters for some reason.
Right. So this one's weird because it almost looks like, I mean, the one girl is obviously sitting on her hands, like with her feet up on the bed, but the other one, it definitely looks like she's landing from a throw.
Yeah.
And a throw that if you did it to yourself would really, really hurt.
Yeah, because her head is practically down underneath the bed next to it. So for our listeners, this is the same bedroom, the two beds side by side. There's a little like pathway in between them. There's just enough space to walk in between. And it looks like both of the girls were probably sharing a bed and they were drug out of the bed.
Mm-hmm.
And both of these girls are on the ground, but their feet, so one of the girls, their feet are completely on the bed, and the other girl, it looks like she got drug out of the bed and underneath the bed across from them.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you can see where her hands are holding something.
Yeah, she's scrambling to pull her nightgown down, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
So that's a genuine reaction.
And even the, it's interesting because it looks like her hips are up off the ground, but just her shoulders are on the ground. So it does look like it was caught mid whatever sort of action.
Yeah, mid yank.
Yeah.
I think this is my first time seeing this one. It looks to me like girl on the left, I'm assuming, is the younger daughter, the 11-year-old Janet. It really looks like she's being pulled out of the bed and underneath the other bed. Because there's
almost simultaneously up by her heel.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, it could be a reaction getting pulled out of the bed, like she might be flailing, but
yeah, like a tumble.
But it does seem like she got drug out by that heel, and it's still holding on to it almost. I mean, again, it's hard with a still photo, but
the reports for these photos are. They decided not to record statements about these, but instead they just said to let the photos speak for themselves.
Oh, okay.
So we don't get a lot of context.
Yeah, I mean, some context would be helpful in this case, only because they're still photos. I mean, I'm still trying to think of it from both sides, like the staged side and the the legitimate side, and unfortunately, the pictures being what they are, you can kind of make an argument both ways. Though, I will say that I think at the time, SPR? Yeah. SPR was trying to make a real effort, and a lot of these people were, PhDs and things like that were really putting their reputations on the line to report on this stuff. And so I feel like, because there were a lot of people involved in this, I mean, not just this incident, but in the organization as a whole, I feel like you don't have that many PhDs that all want to go and make a fraud to put their PhD on the line.
Right.
Because if you get, generally if you get involved in faking data, that's the end of anybody valuing your PhD for anything. Right.
Credibility goes right out the window.
Yeah, and they had other jobs besides this at universities and things like that.
Yes,
so
they all did come from a local college.
Yeah.
So we've got one more photo to look at here. And now this one looks like the girl's jumping. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, this one kind of looks like a wound up tween that doesn't want to go to bed. I mean, she's leaping out of the bed pretty high, but I mean, leaping from the bed, this wouldn't be that high.
No, it's only a couple feet off the bed.
Yeah, and this one doesn't really seem to. I mean, this doesn't sway me into thinking that anything's really going on.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like a kid having fun at night.
It does.
Kinda. like jumping off the bed.
Yeah, it's the pictures help and they hurt the investigation, to be fair.
Right. Because I feel like you could recreate most of these pictures pretty easily.
Yeah. So we've got just a little bit more here to talk about. November rolls around and the media becomes involved. Newspapers, televisions covering the story, attracting national attention. Skeptics question the authority of the phenomenon, accusing the family of hoaxing or seeking attention. And despite skepticism, the SPR investigators remain committed to their research, continuing to document the disturbances and interview witnesses. So, December 1977, the phenomena persists, with reports of Janet's apparent possession becoming more frequent and intense. And that's the interaction with the investigators and the entity known as Bill. It receives further media coverage. Journalists, television crews visiting the Hodgson home and witness the disturbances firsthand. However, there are no video recordings of it. So.
Now, I know that in the 1970s, video cameras were less prevalent, obviously.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like with this much attention, that somebody might have thought to get a video camera for some of this possession stuff and just have it like around.
The only video I could find are like interviews with people who were nearby when the incident happened. I think one of the daughters did an interview in her late 30s or 40s, but it was almost a non-point interview.
Okay.
So, January 1978, the activity begins to subside with fewer incidents reported in the household. Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair conclude their investigation, publishing their findings in a report for the SPR. The case remains unsolved, with no definitive explanation for the reported phenomenon. So the last question we have that surrounds the infamy is about Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Right.
Obviously, the connection comes from Conjuring 2, from the movie.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But Ed and Lorraine Warren did, in fact, investigate the Enfeild poltergeist, though to a far lesser extent than what was depicted in the movie.
Most of what's attributed to them in the movie was actually SPR.
Yes. Yeah, SPR had... I think the movie kind of pushed SPR as like sidekicks to Ed and Lorraine.
Mm-hmm.
Ed and Lorraine were just two of many, many paranormal experts, heavy air quotes there, who visited the residence to investigate claims of supernatural. The two primary investigators were Maurice Grosse and Guy Lyon Playfair. Prior to the release of Conjuring 2, Playfair went on record saying that the Warrens showed up uninvited to the location of the Enfeild poltergeist and were there only one day. So while it is true that the Warrens were attached to the investigation, they did not spearhead the research, nor was there any indication that they played a significant role in the case. So there is a connection, but it's a very, very tiny thread.
Yeah, so there's an account here of, so it says, other paranormal investigators visited the Enfeild house, who included American demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were convinced that the events had a supernatural explanation. According to Brian Dunning, the Warrens' visit was short, and, quote, Ed Warren tried to persuade Playfair that the money could be made from this case by writing books and selling movie rights, and then the Warrens left.
Yeah.
So I don't know how popular they were at the time. Like, as far as
they were very popular at the time. Ed and Lorraine Warren were. I mean, popular enough in the 70s to fly from the United States to England.
Right. And so, and they did make a living at it. I mean, to be fair.
Yeah.
So they did make a living at it.
This brings up my argument about this case. There were people trying to monetize off of this. And that is, it's like my go-to of trying to decide whether or not something is an actual paranormal case. Who's making money off of it?
Right. who has to gain from it?
So I know that the mother did not want to make a big deal about this. Later reports were saying that she wanted the stuff to be over with and done, because she had gone through and lost 2 jobs since this started because she was not able to leave the house because she was afraid for her children. So the mother wanted everything to just be over with.
Mm-hmm.
And then once SPR became involved, she was unable to work. Fortunately, I think SPR did step up and help pay some bills while they were there. But I'm going to say my piece. I feel like some of this is pretty easily explained. I can't help but feel like some of the evidence was a little too good to be true. The stuff falling from the ceiling, falling flat on the table. There was 2 people in the room. They could have just been like, all right, let's make this fantastical.
Right.
And the photos. I can't get over the photos. I love these photos. It's great. We don't get a lot of photos, especially for poltergeist activity. I can't help but feel like every single one of these photos could easily have been the 2 girls going, you know what? They've got cameras in here.
Right.
Let's give them a show.
So, yeah. What else?
And let's talk about how she can do the voice. It is doable.
Mm-hmm.
It is doable. So think of like the throat singing.
Mm-hmm.
Using it's almost like an alternate set of vocal cords that we don't use.
Yeah, the second higher vocal cords,
right.
The whisper cords.
Right.
Yeah.
So
you just growl through.
It's doable. I feel like maybe this girl figured out how to do this on her own, and she's like, well, let me leverage it to make this story a little more interesting. In my personal opinion, the knocking could be explained away, because you gotta think the walls where they're hearing the knocking were outside walls. Could have easily been, hey, let's go into the house next to us, and you knock on the wall, and I'll say it's the ghost. Because at the time, it would have been really easy for these girls to sneak into the neighbor's house. So just like in Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, you go up to the attic. The attic connects to the house next to them. Climb down from the attic. I'm gonna go over there and knock, and you tell them it's the ghost.
Right.
So
and the knocking too. I'm sure. I'm sure somebody looked into this. I would hope. But older copper pipes in houses.
Yeah.
If you don't put in an expansion fitting
right
at the end of where you make right angles and things like that, or long runs of pipe, it's basically just a big expanded bubble tube looking thing that goes on the end that takes up the expansion of air getting in the pipe, or the change from hot to cold.
Right.
So when the pipes expand, they don't swing and knock around,
right.
On their hangers. These houses were not particularly well built. They were quickly built.
Yeah.
Post World War II. And I feel like you could explain it away with that. I mean, no one would know unless you saw like original plans and assume the builders followed the original plans for all these things, though corners were cut for all this sort of social housing. So I'm kind of with you. And even the voices, I feel like, while I'm sure the girl wasn't, a phenomenal ventriloquist, tranquilitist. A trained ventriloquist.
I'm really good at laying still.
I think I'm with you. I think here's what you have. You have some pretty phenomenal reports in the beginning, right, of something that seems very real. You probably have some fairly police officers that were somewhat superstitious, already freaked out about going to a house at night likely raining, given that it's England.
Yeah.
Easy to get a creep factor, especially since the police may or may not have lived better than this, and seeing sort of a rundown house dimly lit,
Right.
And seeing this hysterical lady outside, that's huddling with her kids, I think it would be easy for a transference of terror, so to speak,
Right.
before he ever goes in, right? Because, he's probably thinking it could also be a burglar, right? Who's going to have to face down, right? It could be anything. So, I think you maybe have that. And then I think once the guy from SPR came and got freaked out and ran, you have two possibilities. You have either A, he hyped it up so much and got all these people to come that, there was a lot of excitement and they made it into a thing that it wasn't, maybe not even on purpose, but like grabbed onto every little thing and believed every little thing because they were already there and invested.
Right.
And I don't know if that original investigator comes back, but he might be starting to feel silly that he's part of this paranormal investigator group and got freaked out by a rock in the face.
Right.
Right. And left and ran and made a big hype over it. So you probably have several competing factors for this, for a need for this to be real.
Right.
Right. Kind of like you said, who's getting paid, and paid can be a lot of things. It could be money, it could be influence, and it can even be saving your ego.
Right.
And I think, like you said, the mom's one of the few that's not motivated, but the kids probably haven't gotten this much attention in a long time.
Exactly. It was the 70s, and these people came to their house. They set up cameras, probably the first time they saw a camera.
They're getting to be on the news. They're on the radio.
Yeah.
People are coming to their house. Everybody's asking about it. They're super popular all of a sudden.
So Margaret did go on to do paid interviews. She wrote some books. Margaret did make money off of it. So through that lens, I feel like it was a couple bored teenage girls.
Yeah.
That were craving attention.
Yeah. Bored, wanting some attention, some excitement, fun. Even,
yeah,
I mean, because it's probably not a whole lot of fun living there with no money.
I'm pretty sure that
I've been there.
That schooling wasn't free back then in England, so they probably didn't go to school, or if they did, their mom pulled them out of school.
Yeah,
because it seemed through my research that the kids were always there.
Yeah. So I don't think that school was yet mandatory for all ages.
Right.
So yeah, I think you're right. I think you have a lot of, and the unfortunate thing is there might have been something interesting going on, but hurried investigation, right, and kind of cutting a lot of corners and not really crossing a lot of the T's and crushing the I's. I feel like they skipped a lot of steps in the coverage of this because there's a lot of missing information.
Tons.
The photographic stuff, if they said all this stuff was going on all over the house, but somehow, the cameras never caught the drawers coming open, and the cameras never caught the plates getting stacked, and the thing that they caught was the most innocuous thing, which was a kid that appears to be jumping off the bed.
Oh, let me show you this. Let me zoom in here. This girl is laughing.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, see, I'm not.
There's a definite.
Super.
That's
the photos are not convincing for me at all.
Yeah,
really.
I feel like
I mean, I get how you could spin it.
Yeah,
But I feel like if you got to spin it, it's not evidence.
There were some photos of like the blinds moving, but it would have been real easy for the girl just to reach up and smack them right quick and lay back down before the motion sensor.
Right.
Right. I didn't even include those.
Yeah.
And there was...
Yeah, I'm not super convinced by this. I think probably part of the reason it caught momentum is people heard that the Warrens went to look.
Yeah. The name.
Right. People followed everything they did.
Yeah.
At the time.
Everybody loves a good story.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Unfortunately.
And it is, like you said, it's one of the most covered, poltergeist, big air quotes, incidences. But I think it's probably one of the worst examples as far as evidence. I'm saying evidence and coverage. A lot of writing.
Yeah.
A lot of writing. A lot of people saying this or saying that, or saying it to somebody else who then wrote it down. But
yeah, a lot of second
not
and
a
third
lot
hand
of
knowledge.
solid. Yeah, not a lot of solid stuff.
For a group of people like SPR to be involved, I would have loved to have seen something that really made me go, oh shit.
Right.
How, I can't explain that. But it seemed like every piece of evidence, aside from a few small details at the very beginning, can be easily explained away by a couple bored teenage girls.
Yeah, and it seems like it gets worse as it goes along.
Because I think the attention was starting to wane a little bit, and they were like, oh no, people aren't coming around as often. Now I'm being thrown out of my bed.
Right.
So
Right, and it seems like it stops escalating when they stop being as interested.
Right.
When the press is less interested. And I'll say it again. I'm like Fox Mulder, man. I want to believe.
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
I want to believe, but I'm a skeptic, but I'm willing to look at stuff that's compelling. And unfortunately, because you have just as many non-professional, people covering this sort of thing, there's a whole lot of static in with real stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of static information that's not, it's just muddying the waters
Right.
from people, investigating. I'm doing air quotes again for you on audio.
Many air quotes around that one.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the problem is you end up with just as much junk getting thrown in with real reporting and investigating on this stuff. So I mean, I'm ready to make a verdict on this one.
Same.
Personally. You go ahead.
I've got my big rubber stamp ready, and I'm gonna say that this is fake.
Yeah, I feel like it's bogus. I mean, it's like you said, it's a good story, and it's been retold so many times. And Hollywood having covered it, you got to, I'm sure anybody who's like, oh, it's just like Insidious. Yeah, I heard about a real thing. I mean, yeah, the Warrens really went there. That was a real thing.
Yeah,
that's pretty much where it ends.
And
they also didn't do any of the stuff in the video. All the credit got taken from other people who probably really did some stuff.
Yeah, this whole story got run through the Hollywood machine and made it believable because they made movies about it. And, most people's first exposure to this story was the Poltergeist movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they just automatically assumed, oh, that's the Enfeild Poltergeist story. That stuff really happened. The whole movie, because they put one little sentence at the beginning of the movie based on true events.
Right, which is a big loaded statement.
It could mean anything.
And I gotta say, hats off to the guy who tried his best to make a motion activated camera in the 70s.
Right?
Hats off to you, unnamed homie. Like that was a big endeavor. It doesn't look like it worked super well, but I'm super glad that you tried.
So the original book, I remember them talking about the amount of cables and wiring that were around the house that people were tripping all the time
to try to make that system work.
And the guy that made the motion sensor camera thing, he built the contraption on site.
Dang.
And he had multiple cameras with motion sensors, and this is the only one that caught anything. Were they in the girls' room?
Yeah. So, which is also not suspicious on his part, but suspicious where the girls are concerned.
Right. It's a great story.
Almost like they knew if they were stacking dishes in the living room, they'd get caught on camera doing it.
Yeah, it's man. I really wanted this one to be true. I really did. It's just, damn it, man. You can't win them all.
We'll get one. We'll get some good ones. There's still lots to cover.
There's lots to cover. But if you think we're wrong, email us. beyondshadowspodcast@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. I am a professional investigator, but Aeon over here does not professionally investigate like I do. Because I am professional, and I've got that paper because I went to paranormal college. And professional, don't you zoom out camera. Don't you do it.
No, I'm not a professional. I'm usually I'm the brutal Occam's razor applicant. I slice at it until it makes sense, And that's, which is hard to apply to something like paranormal UFO, but you can rule stuff out by being like, look, you're making it overly complicated.
Right.
I mean, if you follow the, Sherlock Holmes line, was always, eliminate all the things that it can't be, and what's left, however improbable it might be, has to be the answer.
Right.
Right. So if you eliminate all kinds of stuff that it can't be because it's either too complicated, too ridiculous, or whatever, and if what you're left with is something from the outside, either, in this case paranormal, in the case of UFOs, something coming in from outside of our existence or our planet, that makes a lot more sense then, instead of like, have like for instance, a lot of the cover stories that try to cover up incidences, that doesn't necessarily mean it's aliens,
right.
For instance, but it does mean that they were covering up something that they were trying to control the information of, which is all the more interesting. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean it's aliens. Could have been a test of a weapon. Could have been a test on the public.
Right.
They really don't want you to know about a test on the public. That's really bad PR. Some information was trying to be controlled, and when somebody's controlling the information, they have an interest in the information being different than what it appears to be. So that's the stuff that we're focusing on, and so don't get discouraged that because we're going to come across a lot of stuff that is not what it was sensationalized to be, and that's not because we're trying to destroy the concept of there being,
right.
Of there being these things. We're trying to really search through and dig through this stuff.
Search for the truth.
Right, because in the end, I want to believe. I want to find the thing that makes you go, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's what we're after.
Yeah.
And if you can't eliminate all the moments that are kind of like, oh my God, you got to cut all those out before you can get to that oh my God moment.
Yeah. So, you can't win them all. This was a good story nonetheless. Fantastic story.
Well, it's good because so many people have heard of it.
Right. And
so it's a great one to cover and knock out of the way. So when we get to some stuff that's really compelling, like, why haven't I heard of that one?
Right.
It's like,
yeah. There's tons of them out there. We're going to bring them to you. It's, kudos to the people that did take down the story, because it did bring us the Poltergeist, a fantastic horror movie. Absolutely fantastic. That was so good that it was banned in certain countries because it was too scary. So
well, and even this story even brings into popular culture the concept of an active poltergeist. Whether it was any good or not, it did polarize a lot of people to start looking,
right,
and start taking people who had these accounts or these experiences, start taking them seriously, and probably because of some of the way that this was covered, start taking a very analytic and like measured approach. Mm-hmm. Because they wanted to have a system down for if you run into something for real, we don't want all these questions about it. We want to be like, oh yeah, well we did this and this. Oh well, but did you cover? Oh yeah, no, yeah, because we have a system.
Yeah, it's
science.
This case I feel like it brought about the standard for investigating something like this, because there were so many holes in the story that just weren't documented.
Yeah, and the truth is they put together that group pretty quickly and tried to cobble together a system on the fly.
Yeah.
Like the guy making the motion operated cameras on the fly.
Yeah.
They tried to cobble the system together to try to get some coverage, because they're like, oh, it's an active thing right now, like we got to get to it right now, which I get. But then they, SPR and other organizations were like, no, that was the wrong way to go about it. We need to be ready and like on standby, so when something happens, we already know what we're going to do when we get on site. So it was a pivotal moment for a lot of things. I don't think it was real, unfortunately. Yeah. But it's a good case study in what to do later.
Yeah, I think SPR ended up getting some funding after this, and they were able to purchase all their own equipment, because all of the equipment that they used for this investigation was on loan from the college that they worked with.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think even some of that some of the equipment for that motion operated camera they got from the local AV enthusiast store. Like, they borrowed it.
Like, I think the camera guy he wasn't part of SPR. He was brought in as like a contractor.
Right.
So, kudos to them. They did good. It just wasn't enough to convince me. I'm sorry.
No, and on the one hand, I think it was a bungled investigation, but also I don't know that I feel like there was a whole lot to investigate.
I don't either.
But you could have ruled it out better.
Yeah, there could
have left a lot of holes for people to be like, oh, but we don't know about the. Yeah, but I don't know if there was anything to know, man.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, yes, unfortunately. Not a phenomenal story. Or it's a great story, but not the best investigating. I think we did the best investigating.
Right. Lots of great stories came out of it. Sure. Yeah, lots of great stories came out of it. Well, I mean, another one in the box. We'll pull out another file.
Yeah.
And
from my filing cabinet back. My professional. Did you like that zoom?
I did. Yeah.
I think I'm gonna use this more. Yeah, it's nice. But cool, man. I feel good about this one. This was another good one. I'm gonna get this thing wrapped up, and we're gonna get it posted so everyone can check things out. I'm gonna start trying to push more of the socials, get some better videos put out on the socials. I will get all of the information posted in the episode information just as soon as we get it. Keep listening, keep following, keep subscribing. We are also on YouTube, so if you're watching this on YouTube, you rock and roll all day long, sweet Susie.
Like and subscribe, it helps us.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we are actively watching our analytic information to see what people are looking at. We're going to try to start using the polling information, so when new episodes get uploaded, if you scroll down, I know specifically on Spotify, this is a thing, you can scroll down on the episode and there will be a poll there. Let us know whether you like this episode. Let us know if we're doing any good. Let us know if we suck. Please let me know. I'll tell you.
Because we want to bring you stuff you want to hear. I mean, we could talk about, between Victus and I, we could talk about whatever.
Absolutely.
But we want to bring you stuff that's interesting to you, because all of it's entertaining to us.
Right.
So if we don't know what you like or what you don't like, and we'll have enough content out there eventually for you to really start to sift through it and put up votes. But if we know what you like and you want to hear about it, we're happy to talk about that.
Absolutely.
So drop us some hate mail. I mean, whatever. Oh, that's a terrible episode, you should have covered. Great. We want to hear about that. What should we have covered?
Yeah.
We want that. Or, like he said, if you have some edits or you have some things you'd like us to touch on, we can circle back.
And we're maybe, if more people have, if we start getting a bunch of emails, we can start talking, reading emails and discussing those as a response to episodes. Again, our email is beyondshadowspodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to shoot us an email, whatever you want to say. It doesn't matter. No judgment here. I'm about to sneeze.
Well, on that note, are you gonna let go?
No.
No.
No. It went back. I was trying not to just blow this diaphragm out in this mic.
Like a turtle back in its shell.
Yeah. Anywho, I guess we're gonna roll it up there, man. It was a good episode. I'm glad to have you with me. And insert snappy slogan here. We're still trying to figure that out. Blah 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 blah. Interesting words of context beyond the shadows. we'll get it figured out.
A creature like that, how would it ever die?
And this monster starts running right at me.
Annihilated by nuclear bombs.
Beast is not dead. I put 4 bullets into him.
Oh, you're crazy.
But I saw that monster too. All I want is for someone to believe me.
Contaminated.
Face. Horrible. Look like it would scare you to death.
All right, let's get to work.
Beyond the shadows.